So, what if the sun just switched off? Not an eclipse, not a cloud, but gone. For a whole month. In the first minute, you wouldn't know. The light takes about 8 minutes to get here. So for those last few moments, you'd see a perfectly normal sky. Then the last photons would arrive, and the lights would go out, everywhere, at once. But the first thing you'd notice isn't the dark, it's the temperature and the silence. See, sunlight is energy hitting your skin. The moment that stops, the planet starts losing heat, fast. Within the first week, average surface temperatures would drop to around 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about as cold as a really brutal winter day everywhere. All at once, and the silence. Because almost immediately, animals would just stop. Birds stop singing. Insects stop chirping. The entire planet's rhythm, set by the sun, hits a wall. The psychological weight of that global silence would be overwhelming. You'd know in your bones that this isn't right. Now, realistically, you'd be in serious trouble by now. But let's say you're somehow protected. Let's see what happens to the world. Photosynthesis stops. Instantly, that's the process plants use to turn sunlight into food and oxygen. The oxygen in the air would last us a long time, thousands of years, but the food web? It just had its foundation ripped out. Everything that depends on plants, which is almost everything, is on a clock. Then the weather dies. Our weather is all about the sun heating some parts of the earth more than others. That creates wind, storms, currents. Without that engine, the winds slowly fade into a global, stagnant breeze. The last storm would blow itself out. By the end of the first week, we're looking at temperatures near minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit near the poles. And it keeps dropping. The oceans start freezing over. Not just at the surface, but deep. The ice acts like a lid. And here's where it gets weird. The atmosphere itself starts to freeze. The nitrogen and oxygen that make up our air begin to condense. They fall as snow. Imagine a blizzard, where the snow is the very air you're trying to breathe. The sky literally falls. But what about us? Human survivors would cluster around the last sources of heat. Not solar power, not fossil fuels, those are just stored sunlight. I'm talking about geothermal energy, the heat from the Earth itself. Places like Iceland, Yellowstone, deep-sea hydrothermal vents. These become the only possible oases. And the most valuable people aren't just engineers, they're timekeepers, because without sunrise, our internal clocks break. Our sleep cycles, our society, our sense of time, it all comes from that daily rhythm. Keeping a shared, accurate sense of time would be the glue holding any group together. Without it, madness sets in fast. We'd run out of food long before we ran out of air. And the cold would be absolute. A cold deeper than any human has ever experienced, covering the entire planet. Earth becomes a frozen, dark rock tumbling through space. Wait, tumbling through space? Wouldn't we fly off? No. And that's kind of the eeriest part. Gravity travels at the speed of light too. So for those same 8 minutes we'd keep orbiting. Nothing. The point where the sun used to be. For the entire 30 days, Earth would be a blind ship, still tethered to a ghost, following a path to nowhere. Okay, day 30. The sun comes back. Happy ending, right? Probably not. Think about it. You've got a planet that's essentially in deep cryo-freeze. The surface is maybe hundreds of degrees below zero. The atmosphere is thin, with much of it frozen on the ground. And then suddenly, the full fury of the sun reappears. The thermal shock would be catastrophic. Ice sheets would shatter like glass. The frozen gases on the surface would vaporize explosively. The sudden, massive heating of the atmosphere could create hypercanes, storms that make our current hurricanes look like a breeze. Any survivors deep underground would emerge, if they could, to a world being violently steam-cleaned. The light itself, after 30 days of perfect darkness, would be blinding. So, the return might be more destructive than the absence. The sun gives life, but it's not gentle. It's a titanic force, and waking a frozen world is a violent process. Which, honestly, is kind of the point of this whole thought experiment. We think of the sun as this constant, gentle presence, a warm light in the sky. But it's not. It's the engine. And we are all, every plant, every animal, every weather pattern, and every single human society, just passengers on a spaceship sailing far, far too close to the flames. The silence after it winks out isn't just an absence of light. It's the sound of the engine stopping. And we are not the pilots.